Hello, hello, happy little ramblers, and welcome to another installment of Reese Rambles, episode number 40. Wow, we're up to 40 episodes now, isn't that fantastic? And I'm having all sorts of technical problems today. It's a massive pain, as always. I'm staring at myself at the little screen on the side of my camera here, and for some reason I look very red. I'm not quite sure why, because on the preview, on my laptop screen here on OBS, I look perfectly fine. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm just going to ignore this. I have been messing with like the color profiles and things on my camera. Just been trying to get stuff sort of dialed in for the office, so maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know quite why Sony would include a screen that doesn't support the color profile that I'm using properly. I don't know, but there we go. And another fantastic technical development is I've had this ongoing saga really with my monitor here, and I'm starting to come to the conclusion that it's the actual monitor. So if you've seen any of my videos, which you probably will have done, I've got this big Samsung 4K absolute chungus of a monitor on my desk here. It's like I think it's 32-inch, something ridiculous like that. And I bought this during lockdown, and it was one of the very few monitors that I could get my hands on that were kind of big and 4K. Because I wanted to use something for like video editing and for testing my old consoles, hooking my Mister up to, that kind of stuff. Obviously, I don't need a 4K monitor for old consoles, but and it's always just been a huge pain. The refresh rate is terrible. The response time is terrible. It's just an all-round, just a really terrible monitor. And my latest saga, I thought, well, what I want to do for these rambles, because I record all of these live in OBS, and what I mean by live is that when I have like a web page up on the screen, I'm actually seeing that on my screen, and I'm actually clicking through, and if I'm playing a video or whatever, I'm actually doing that in real time as I'm recording, just because that workflow is really fast and really kind of convenient for getting stuff out of the door quickly. Because if I didn't streamline it as much as possible, I would inevitably procrastinate and put it off and not want to actually get around to it. I mean, as it stands, it's Friday afternoon now, and this is going to be uploaded. This is actually going to go public at 2 minutes to midnight tonight, as they usually do. So what I've got to do is get all this recorded very quickly, do a very quick edit. I don't really do much editing on these anyway nowadays, and probably nip over to the office. I've got a couple of bits I want to have a look at the office anyway, and get it uploaded over there, because if I uploaded it here, it would take hours. And that's my life. But this monitor. sorry to get sidetracked as always, inevitably. I have a USB-C, so the laptop that I use is a MacBook Air. And yeah, I know, Apple, hey Apple, why did you buy a MacBook? Yada, I don't care, I've heard it all. I really love it. I think it's fantastic. The battery life is amazing on it. I can easily, literally do a full day's work on it, which is great. There are some places where it's not convenient for me to plug in. And the Apple Silicon chip, so this is an M1, it's really good for video editing and that kind of stuff. I edit all my videos in 4K on this machine, and it, barely bats an eyelid. So it's absolutely fantastic for that. And also a lot of kind of my work-related stuff is like Linux server administration and that kind of thing, and just kind of working in kind of a Unix-y environment and having that command line that I can drop down to. Anyway, I'm not here to sell the MacBook to you. But it doesn't like this monitor. I've used a USB-C to HDMI adapter with it before, and for some reason it won't let me go above 30 hertz. No matter what the resolution I set it to. I thought it was maybe like a bandwidth thing or something. So, if I set it to 1080p or 720p or whatever, it will only refresh at 30 hertz, which is really, it's rubbish, particularly compared to the excellent screen that's built into the MacBook Air. So I've been trying to look for solutions, and I bought, I've not actually got the box to hand, but it just arrived earlier from Amazon. I bought a Ugreen branded Thunderbolt to DisplayPort cable, because this monitor does have DisplayPort input, and DisplayPort supposedly supports adaptive refresh rates and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't work at all. The MacBook just doesn't seem to recognise it at all, so that's completely useless. It does have Thunderbolt. I think it's got Thunderbolt 3 or 4 built in, so I don't see why it wouldn't work. But it just doesn't recognise a cable. Is it a faulty cable? Is it an Apple thing? I don't know. So I'm just going to get rid of this monitor. If I connect my camera directly to it using HDMI, using the HDMI output on my camera, which is what I use to record this, going into a capture device, then it's fine. It will work fine as a preview. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably stick it on a Vaser mount somewhere on an arm, put it up in my new studio space, and have it so I can see it. And, it'd be really handy for framing Sorry, I just went out of focus for a second there. Really handy for framing shots and kind of seeing what I'm doing, making sure things look right when I'm actually recording in that space. Because it's a much bigger space, and while I can kind of occasionally sort of check glance at the screen on the side of the camera, it's tiny and it's quite far away from me in that space as well. So it does make life a little bit difficult. And yeah, just one more technical difficulty just to add to the pile. I left my Ramble phone over there, the second phone that I use. I also use it in my teleprompter, and I use it for a few other things like remote controlling my camera as the need arises. And I usually have the notes for my rambles because obviously the monitor doesn't work, otherwise I'd have them on there. And so I usually have that kind of visible in front of me. So I've gone back to my other phone, but it's not quite set up the same. The screen times out and it locks, which I've specifically disabled on the other phone. And just going to make life a little bit more difficult for no good reason, as always. But anyway, we shall persevere. I'm not here to complain and moan at you. They're all just silly little things. One other fantastic piece of news today is that something I just wanted to quickly share with you. And I wasn't sure whether to have a play with this and kind of give you my first impressions and stuff, but I'm going to save that for a separate video. The Atari 2600 Plus. It is a beautiful thing, still in the box, as I'm sure you can probably hear, that plastic rustling. And that arrived from Mr. Amazon earlier, moments ago, in fact, along with this stupid cable that doesn't work. And I've seen some of the early reviews of these. Unfortunately, Atari didn't deem me worthy of getting a review unit. Unfortunately, I'm not quite that big. I mean, I've only got 25,000 subscribers, when the people that have got them have got millions. So fair enough. I don't begrudge them that. I can't send them out free to everyone, after all. And I also got the paddle set. So this has a cartridge with some paddle games, 4 paddle games on it. Really excellent games: Breakout, Canyon Bomb and Night Driver and Video Olympics. No Warlords, but obviously the console itself plays original cartridges, so I do have the original cartridges. And I bought an extra joystick for it as well, because why not? There are a couple of things I want to investigate that a lot of people are asking questions about, and a lot of those kind of early first impressions videos didn't cover. For example, it plays Atari's 7800 games, but a lot of those games need 2 buttons because the controller for the 7800 had 2 buttons, and people haven't covered that. And of course, just chuck the joystick on the floor. Of course, the joystick that comes with it doesn't have 2 buttons either. So how can you play those games on there? And does it work with the original 7800 pads or the the Pro Line joystick that console came with in the US? Good questions. Also, questions around it takes like a few seconds to load games up. So you put your original cartridge in and you hit the power button, and it takes a few seconds to actually load it up. And people talking about the quality of the emulation and that kind of thing. So I want to kind of cover some of those questions that I've seen around. If I can't be one of the first to review it, I want to be kind of one of the best to review it, I guess. So, one of the people that kind of answers the questions that people have about the console. I've seen some people, I've seen some negativity around it, mainly from people that don't own them and have heard things in reviews and said, well, that's not good enough. Stuff to do with, why didn't they use a more powerful SoC or more RAM, or why isn't it FPGA based? Obviously, the thing I said about the joystick with the buttons and little kind of niggly things like that. And my instinct is to kind of jump to defend it, and I don't really know why. I guess it's because I really want it to be good, but I'm going to have to be impartial if I'm going to review it. So I have to have a serious think while I'm playing with it, and try and put my unbiased non-Atari fanboy hat on. But for all intents and purposes, from what I've seen, it's a toy, it's a shelf ornament. It looks really cool. It's quite well, the hardware is quite nicely put together, and it'll look really cool on a shelf, amongst other similar stuff. So from that angle, I think it's delivered on the kind of that side of things that I personally wanted from it. But anyway, I'll give you my first impressions and everything else. And just finally, in another piece of personal news, part of the reason why I'm recording this so late in the day, I had like a physio assessment first thing this morning, which is a whole different story. And then I had to go over to Wix, to the big DIY place, to get some bits and bobs that I need for the office. And I also had to drop my wife off because she's gone down to London this evening, and I will be joining her over the weekend. And I've been madly trying to get stuff finished. And the reason she's gone down to London, and I have to talk about this, I can't remember if I mentioned this, I don't think I did. is because she is at the Women in Meat Awards, or the Women in the Meat Industry Awards. And yes, it's a real thing taking place in London this weekend, and it's for women who work in the meat industry, as she does. She works at a bacon factory. Sorry, vegetarians, but yeah, we've got to earn a living somehow. And this bacon factory has been a customer of mine for sort of 10 plus years, and yeah, a job vacancy became available over sort of COVID times, and I sent the information her way because she wasn't having a very good time at her previous job. And she applied, and she's worked there quite happily for a few years now, and she's been asked to attend these awards. She's not been nominated. She has won a few awards in her job because she is genuinely amazing at everything that she does. But yeah, she's been invited down as a guest. So maybe she might be in the running for a nomination next year. Who knows? But yeah, I thought that was quite amusing. So I thought I would share that with you. But yeah, let's get into the actual meat and bones, if you pardon the pun, of this week's Ramble. So let's consult the Ramble phone for, well, the stand-in Ramble phone for this week for, yeah, the next topic for this Ramble. And it's telling me it's RoseTintedSpectrum's charity stream. Of course, the reason that I couldn't do a proper Ramble last weekend, or the reason that I didn't and weaseled out of it, because I was a guest on his charity stream. So yeah, Rosie, or Dave, but I've always called him Rosie, has successfully completed this 24 hours of Dizzy, playing the old Dizzy Codemasters games, the eponymous Egg character, of course. Basically playing all of the games in that series, including the spin-offs and the rubbish ones, and a new one that I actually wasn't aware of, which was quite interesting. And it was such a fun weekend. Obviously, I appeared at 3 p.m. on the Saturday, as expected. And we had a load of fun hanging out for an hour, and I gave away a prize, which I still have here. Apologies, I can't remember the name of the person that won it, but he has just sent the details of the winner over to me, so I'm going to get that sent off. I need to get that tested first, because the last thing I want is for it to arrive and have problems. Hence, there's a slight hold up, but I did make the winner aware of that at the time, and that's all cool. And his reaction was kind of what made it all worth it, because he was kind of apparently the guy that won it was kind of half distracted when he was watching the stream, because his kids were running around screaming and stuff, and he kind of didn't realise that he'd won at first, and then when he did, it was like, oh, I've never actually won anything before. This is amazing. Thank you so much. And it was so cool to see his reaction and to make him happy. And yeah, well worth giving that away. Obviously, the circumstances that led to me having that was kind of a friend of a friend, sadly passed away, and I ended up with a load of Sinclair stuff. So to give that away for a good cause and to make somebody happy is really cool. That's exactly the kind of thing that I want to do with it. And yeah, of course, the stream itself also spawned a load of its own memes, which was quite funny. I was actually around for most of it, and in the chat, hanging out in the chat, chatting to people and stuff. So of course we had St. Peter's special cheese in one of the Dizzy games. You get to the pearly gates of heaven if you kind of jump around in the clouds, and St. Peter's tells you that he's missing something, and I think you have to go and find his harp and give it back to him, and then he gives you his special cheese, and that's a thing that pops up in a couple of the games, and it's quite obviously the special cheese jokes, and special cheese, and then you have to find the Bible. So there was someone who runs a Dizzy fan site who was hanging around in the chat and giving hints and stuff, and there was one stage in one of the games where he just kept shouting, "You have to get the Bible! You have to get the Bible!" Because you need a Bible to get past a certain part of the game. And people were like, "You need the Bible! You need the Bible! You'll need Jesus and all this kind of stuff." And I don't think he quite understood what people were getting at. And then it kind of became a meme for the rest of the weekend, which was quite funny. But yeah, all in all, fantastic event for a really good cause for Great Ormond Street Hospital. Of course, he has a personal connection to that, which I won't go into here, but raised £4,334. And the whole thing was part of a kind of a streaming campaign raising money for the hospital, which was called #StreamItBeatIt, apparently. And they raised, 38,600 odd pounds. So Rosie personally raised over 10% of the entire entire thing. And they're a very genuine charity, very well established, and a really, really fantastic cause. So cool to be a part of that, and a real honour, I think, to have asked to have been a part of it. So big thank you to Rosie, and of course congratulations on raising all of that money. And of course I'm going to sort this prize out and get that sent out. So a little bit of a change of tack, really, on the subject of charity, because something very strange has happened in the YouTube world in the past week, and I just kind of wanted to address it. I wanted to talk about it because I've mentioned it to a few people, and some people, some people are really kind of emotionally invested in this and know everything about it. They're kind of terminally online people like myself, and a lot of people know absolutely nothing about it. And I think it's odd enough that it's kind of worth talking about. So first I want to introduce a guy called Karl Jobst. Now he's actually originally known for being a GoldenEye speedrunner. So he was into the world of speedrunning, completing games as quickly as possible using hacks and glitches and that, not hacks, but glitches and stuff like that built into the game. And, he was kind of part of that big competitive gaming scene. And the way that he kind of became known was by exposing a guy called Billy Mitchell, who he held the world record in Pac-Man. I'm only kind of vaguely familiar with the whole Billy Mitchell story. Not Billy Mitchell from EastEnders, an American guy called Billy Mitchell. And he held the world records in Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. And there's absolutely no question that this guy is amazingly good at these games. But there was some kind of dubious footage in his world record attempts that kind of implied that he was using, he wasn't using the original arcade hardware. And, I think it transpired that he was using like an emulator or something. But that was all kind of exposed by Karl Jobst. And that was kind of the start of his investigative journalism career, which is what he does now, and he's actually really good at it. He makes quite amazing in-depth videos about weird stuff that's going on in kind of the gaming world. And he also did one to do with game grading. So he sends you games off, and these companies seal them up in a plastic box and give them a rating, which kind of tells you the condition. And then people buy them as an investment, or supposedly people are supposed to buy them as an investment, but the whole thing's just ridiculous. It's like the fine art market or fine wines, or the whole thing's just a massive circle jerk of people sort of massively inflating crypto and NFTs and that kind of stuff as well. A big circle jerk of people. There's a lot of the same people involved as well. Massively inflating the value of these things. And he did another recent video about how the value had completely dropped out of those, which was really interesting. But that's not the one that I want to talk about. This one connects to the whole charity thing. I do want to say I'm not trying to draw some kind of comparison here, some kind of equivalence. All of Rosie's stuff did go directly to Great Ormond Street. It's not sat in his bank account or anything like that. So don't worry about that. But it is kind of along the same vein with the whole charity connection. And this is a guy called the Completionist. Now I've come across the Completionist, and he was a proper old school. Well, I say was. He's still very, very much active, but he was a proper old school YouTuber back in the day, like in the very early days of YouTube. And obviously, the Completionist, his whole thing is completing games. And he very sadly lost his mother to dementia and Alzheimer's, 10 years ago, and set up a charity in her name called the Open Hand Foundation. Now, this is all covered in Karl's video, which, of course, I will link in the usual places. And, this guy, Gerard, has been raising money for years for his own charity that him and his brother run. It's all officially registered, all above board, they submit accounts and all that kind of stuff. And someone very recently looked into their accounts and discovered that they'd never actually paid out a single penny to a charity. They've taken some expenses for themselves, and they've actually, looking at the figures myself, I mean, obviously I run my own business and stuff, the expenses aren't all that exorbitant. It's not like they're taking all the money out and keeping it for themselves. But the accounts seem to imply that they've taken all these donations over the years, and they've just sat there in their bank account and not been given out to charities. And there's this whole weird twist where there's this like university professor from I think the University of San Francisco It's like given the charity his own personal endorsement, and he's personally connected to it, and he's involved with all this sort of Alzheimer's research. And anyway, it also transpired that he'd left the university in 2007, which was 7 years before the charity was even established, which is odd. And then it came to light that the completionist, Gerard, this guy, actually knew full well that they hadn't given out any actual money to charity, and that he discovered this in 2022. Basically, his brother runs the thing day to day, and he's not directly involved with the accounts of this charity, and didn't realise that this was happening until 2022. But still carried on live streaming and all the rest of it, asking for donations and saying, "Oh, it's going to this charity, it's going to that charity, it's going here, it's going there," and it's kind of a valid defence. Well, it's not a valid defence, because as a director of a company, you should take an active interest in the accounts of said company and the administration of said company. It's kind of your legal duty to do that, and you are kind of neglecting your duties as a director if you don't. Obviously, charities, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, this is America and it's charity, so it's not really my area of expertise. But it's odd to say the least. And then to supposedly if he did discover this in 2022 and then carried on asking people for donations and claiming that the money was going to certain places, knowing full well that it wasn't, then he was very much in the wrong. So who knows? Maybe the money's all gone. I mean, this is only stuff that's been publicly declared. It could well be that they're claiming that they've put the money in the bank for safekeeping, and they just haven't found a good enough place to send it yet. When actually they've just pocketed it all or spent it all or whatever. Who knows? It's odd. It's a very weird story. It's well worth watching the video. I don't say this to kind of stir up drama or anything like that. It's just a weird story, and because it's got that retro gaming and that kind of YouTube connection, I've taken a really kind of active interest in this. And then there was another twist just the other day, where the Open Hand Foundation, which is the charity, actually submitted a privacy complaint against the video. Not a copyright complaint, but an actual privacy complaint. And it's been followed up, and it's been confirmed that it did actually come from them, not from a completionist fanboy trying to take down the video or whatever. And YouTube actually investigated it and said, no, this isn't a violation of your privacy, because it's based on publicly available information, because charity accounts are publicly available. So that was cool. That was kind of a rare win for YouTube in one of their rulings, which they usually get wrong. But yeah, just a really odd story, and one that I'm kind of keeping on top of and kind of wanting to I just want to see how it unfolds and how this whole thing gets resolved, because this guy is absolutely massive and has been for years, and he could end up getting cancelled, as they say, over this whole thing, which would be unfortunate. But hey, maybe he's just been a bit stupid. Maybe his brother was dealing with the day-to-day running of things and kind of shielding him from it and not really telling him the whole truth. And actually, he is innocent in all of this, and the money's still there, and it's going to go to a deserving cause. And yeah, maybe that's okay. But as it stands, all a little bit odd. And on that note, weaving these little threads that I weave through all of these stories, I'm doing a really good job of connecting everything this week. I'm really on the ball, which is unusual for me. Maybe it's because I just had my hair cut, but what? On that note of old school YouTubers and drama, of course, there's the whole Escapist thing. There's the Yahtzee thing, or Yahtzee. I'm going to say Yahtzee. Now, this is a guy whose videos I remember watching years ago. It's like this predates YouTube. He used to upload stuff to his own website, and he had a game review series called Fully Ramblomatic, and it was basically, he's this scathing. What's his name? Ben Croshaw, I think his name is. He's a British games journalist. He does these scathing reviews that are have all these really awesome one-liners, and they're full of bad language, and it's just fun, It's back in the early days. Obviously, America had the angry video game nerd, and we had Yahtzee, and it's although he's not angry, it's hard to explain it if you haven't watched one of his videos, and you should. But anyway, the business grew, and he moved to YouTube, and it got taken over by various entities and things, and ultimately became a part of this group called The Escapist. His videos were still the biggest thing on there. Zero Punctuation was the name of the series. And, still very much churning out the exact same stuff that he'd been doing for years and years and years. I did watch it. I have watched quite a lot of his kind of modern output. I'm not really into sort of new AAA games and that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that he reviews. I mean, reviews all sorts of stuff. But anyway, the story is that this company was taken over a few years ago by a big group calling themselves Gamers. That's GAMURS. And basically this group decided that The Escapist wasn't doing well enough and needed to be making even more money. Even though, it's not a household name, but in this world of retro gaming and that kind of stuff, it's pretty much a household name. It's one that everyone knows of because they've just been around forever. Like I say, particularly fully Ramblomatic / Zero Punctuation. And they decided that the group as a whole wasn't making enough money, and they wanted to put targets in place for particular things, and then they ended up not hitting those targets, and they sacked the editor, essentially, associate editor. I don't have his job title written down. I should have written that down, shouldn't I? But anyway, the editor, Big Cheese at the top, they fired him for not meeting his targets, and then basically most of the team quit. Straight off the back of this and said, no, we like this guy. He's done absolutely nothing wrong. These targets are completely unreasonable and you're the ones in the wrong and we don't want to work for you anymore. So they all quit. And they've been left with like a hollow shell of a company. Basically, all the people involved with the video production side of things have all gone. And what they've done is they've set up their own channel called Second Wind. And this whole thing has just... It's developed so quickly, it's crazy. It was like they quit one day, the next day they said, yep, we're all going to be working together and setting up this second channel. And then like within a week, they've done a live stream where they've explained their whole business plan and everything. They've got like thousands of people signed up to their Patreon. I think they're making like 25 grand a month or something on Patreon, which is cool. It's very good for them. I'm certainly not going to complain about that. Because because of the nature of his videos, a lot they're going to find themselves getting demonetized quite a lot because they're full of bad language and all sorts of stuff. And he's put out a new video using his old brand, fully Ramblomatic, and it is a classic Zero Punctuation video. Gone back to his roots a bit with it's full of bad language and weird imagery and. Worth checking out if you were a fan of the series back in the day. It's quite entertaining. They've also done some other stuff. I must admit, I'm not so familiar with the other Escapist brands and kind of stuff that they were putting out on their channel. It was only really his videos that I watched, and I think they're quite open about the fact that he was the single biggest thing on their channel, and he's quite a big draw, which is fair enough. But from what I gather, all the other stuff that they put out is also good and worth checking out. But strange situation. But it's cool to see kind of one of the OGs of kind of YouTube retro game reviews and stuff. Kind of going through this weird process and this weird rebirth. And he's back bigger than ever. I mean, as it stands, they've got over 200,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel. And like I say, it's been like less than a week. And this first fully Ramblomatic video has got 340,000 views in one day, which is insane. But good on them. Stand up to their corporate overlords trying to impose stupid targets and stuff like that. And they've branched out on their own. So best of luck to them. It's really cool to see. And finally, and again, something that's connected to all of these various threads. God, it's almost like I planned this week, almost like it's a professional operation, which I can absolutely guarantee you it is not. Something that concerns the hardware guys like me and these devices that I've personally been using for years. There's a new RetroTINK and a new OSSC. And if you're not familiar with the RetroTINK and the OSSC, essentially what they do, OSSC stands for Open Source Scan Converter. And what they do is you plug your old computer or your old games console or whatever into it, and it takes that signal and it upscales it, and there's other bits of processing that they can do on that signal, and they basically spit it out an HDMI connection, so you can plug it straight into a modern TV. Now, some modern TVs do have inputs for composite video and some of these older sort of standards, but they don't handle them very well. And basically, what these scalers do is they clean up the signal and they kind of get the absolute best out of it. And they really are sort of very high end specialist devices, power user devices, and they're very popular with YouTubers who like to capture footage from original hardware, original computers, and original consoles. And the RetroTINK is kind of more focused on the console side of things, and the OSSC is more kind of focused on the computer side of things. It has a VGA input and it can handle all the weird DOS resolutions and stuff. When I used to do streaming on my channel, which I keep saying I'm going to get back to, I'm going to try again. I used an OSSC as part of that setup to kind of get the signal from those old PCs and upscale it and then sort of capture it, in the capture software. OBS, I'm literally staring at it as we speak. So yeah, this week, after much speculation, and there was some speculation that this thing was going to cost $1,000, the new RetroTINK 4K has finally been given a price by its creator, Mike Chi. A really lovely guy, really great part of the community. Very, very, very much engages with the community. And yeah, it's $750. And I don't mean to say that like it's a negative thing, but I think that's priced me out of the market for what I'm going to be using it for. I've kind of moved more to the Mister, to more the kind of the emulation side of things for capturing old game footage and that kind of thing. If the price comes down a bit from there, yeah, I might be interested. I do own the RetroTINK 5X, and he is continuing to support that and release updates for it. And he's actually backported some of the work that he's done on the RetroTINK 4K to the 5X. The 5X, of course, doesn't do 4K output. Not really interested in 4K output myself. I think upscaling 1980s consoles to 4K is quite extreme, but hey, why not? If you've got a 4K TV that works best with a native 4K signal, then you need to feed it that signal if you want the best possible results. So absolutely, I totally see the point of this. And this thing is just insane. It's insanely powerful. It's all built around an FPGA. It's got absolutely loads of features, which I'm not going to go into here because it's not my job to advertise this thing. But yeah, there's some early reviews, which I will link to, some people who have. And this thing has been in the hands of some YouTubers and kind of people in the community for around a year now. So it's actually quite a mature product for something that's literally going to be launching and shipping next month. Basically takes any kind of input that you can throw at it from any kind of machine, and extracts the best possible output from that and upscales it and it outputs it in a way that's compatible with your modern TV. $750. Yeah, it's a Cyclone V FPGA, same as the Mister. So yeah, it just goes to show how. I think is that the same as the Mister? Someone's going to call me. Someone will pick me up on that if that's wrong. And yeah, it does loads of stuff. Of course, I'll link to that in the usual places. And also this week, I don't know if it was this week or last week or whatever, but whatever, let's go with it. The open source scan converter, the OSSC Pro. Now, like I said, I've been using OSSC for years, really fantastic devices, and the OSSC Pro is finally out now. And that's a much more palatable, I should say $750, that's about £600, by the way. The OSSC Pro is much more palatable. I've got Video Game Perfection up here because that's where I would buy it from if I bought it in the UK. I think I've bought quite a few bits from them over the years, including my OSSC the original one. And yeah, this is €350, which is about £300. So it's kind of half the price of the RetroTINK 4K. It's a different animal. It kind of specialises in different things. It's great that they both exist. They're not. I'm not going to be picking favourites or anything like that. And in an ideal world, if I had unlimited money, I would buy both and use them for their particular strengths. But hey, they both basically claim to not introduce any input lag. Obviously, that's all going to be thoroughly tested by the people who have the right equipment and know a lot more about this stuff than I do. And so that's fantastic. A lot of TVs, when they take these kind of older inputs and upscale them, they add a load of lag and stuff. So to have an external device that doesn't do that is very cool. And I can see these being popular with streamers and with YouTubers who do retro game reviews and stuff with original hardware like I do. So very cool high-end devices specialising in that kind of stuff. And just wanted to acknowledge the fact that, they are imminent. They are available. And if you have that kind of money and you're interested in that kind of thing, there they are. Links in the usual places. So there we have it. That's the end of this week's Ramble, fully Ramblomatic Ramble. I don't think I'm allowed to use that. I think that is trademarked to someone else. But yeah, lots of stuff going on in the retro world. And I thought I'd cover some actual news in amongst the personal stuff and the rants and the opinions and everything else that I usually do. Just mix it up a little bit, you know. I feel make it a bit spicy for this 40th episode. And yeah, I guess that means I'm only 12 episodes away from having done an entire year unbroken streak, which is crazy. You know, if you could turn a blind eye to the 2 that I did that were basically just adverts for other things that I was appearing in, yeah, I would appreciate it. I think they still count. Do they still count? Let me know down in the comments. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching / listening. Please do subscribe to the Reese Rambles YouTube channel because I'd like to grow it to 1,000 subscribers just so I can get some more control over the monetization stuff on there. But yeah, that's it. Also check out RoseTintedSpectrum and Karl, Jobst and all the other stuff in the usual places. So thank you ever so much. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to be off down to London in the morning to meet up with my lovely wife. And yeah, I guess we'll be checking out some Christmas markets and drinking some mulled wine and all of that wonderful festive stuff. So yeah, see ya.